Chef Vernetta, and today we are going to make a stuffed bell pepper. So this recipe is pretty easy, and it's something that you can make quick as well. And my idea for this recipe is kind of using some of the ingredients you may already have at home. So just in case you're looking to do a quick dinner during the week or on the weekend, you can grab a lot of ingredients that you have from your pantry or your refrigerator to make this dish. So what I'm doing for this particular stuffed pepper, I'm going to use ground beef, rice, diced tomatoes. I have some garlic Monterey Jack cheese as well that I'm going to add to it. And a lot of this stuff is things that I've already had inside of the refrigerator or in the pantry to make an easy dinner. So I just have a bell pepper that we're going to use. I had some rice. So a lot of times we cook rice and we may have a lot of leftover rice. So that's something that you can use to add to this stuffed bell pepper and use up some of the old rice that you have. I also am going to use ground beef. So I'll tell you how this came about. I had some hamburgers and I had some leftover rice. So these are the things that were left from a meal one night and a meal the next night. So now we'll make it a third meal and kind of use up some of those ingredients, like I said, that we have. And then I have some diced tomatoes. So I just have some diced tomatoes. Whenever I get canned diced tomatoes, I prefer the fire roasted brand, and I also like to make sure that I get a low sodium brand. And one thing about this dish, that because the burgers were the ground beef had already been cooked and we've already seasoned it, we don't have to add a lot of seasoning to it because everything has already been seasoned, and you save some steps because these are some things that you already have. I have a grater because for my cheese here, I like to grate my own cheese. Now, there's nothing wrong with cheese inside of the bag that is pre-shredded. If you need to save time, then go ahead and get that cheese. I like to grate my own cheese because the cheese that's already packaged in the bag has a anti-caking agent on it. So sometimes if you look in that bag and you see a little kind of almost like white on top of the cheese, that is just some anti-caking powder that they put on the cheese to keep it from clumping together. Now, for certain dishes, I don't like to use that cheese because I feel like I don't get that nice meltiness is not a word, but I don't get the nice melt that I want because of that clumping. So I always try to grate my own cheese, and I just have a old school cheese grater that I love so much. You can use any brand of diced tomatoes. You can also use fresh tomatoes as well. So I have about a half a cup of rice that I just had left over, and I have about a cup of the ground beef. You can use ground turkey if you have ground turkey that you've used during the week, or chicken that you had during the week. You can shred that chicken up and add it to this dish as well. We all tend to have onions and peppers inside of our refrigerator, so you can almost, sky's the limit with your stuffed pepper and use up some of the ingredients that you have already inside your pantry. One thing I like to do, being a chef, you have so many different ingredients throughout the week. Even if you're cooking for clients, I may have some stuff that I, maybe didn't use all the tomatoes for this or didn't use all the onions for this. So I try to go through the refrigerator and see what I can come up with some of those leftover ingredients and save time and money as well. So you don't have to go out and purchase any stuff. You're basically using what you have on hand. So I'm excited to put this together, and it's really quick because you're using stuff that has already been pre-cooked, so you're not taking the time to cook the rice or taking the time to cook your ground beef or your turkey or your chicken or whatever you're going to use. You already have that on hand. The most that we're going to do is cut our bell pepper. We're going to mix all of our ingredients together. We're going to stuff it in our bell pepper. I have the oven preheated at 350 degrees. Once we get everything stuffed inside the pepper, we're going to put it in the oven for about 35 to 40 minutes, maybe a little longer, because everything in there is already cooked. So we really just want to heat it up, get it all blended together, and get our pepper a little bit, nice and soft so that we can get in the inside of it. Me personally, I like the pepper a little bit crunchy, so al dente. So I probably won't take it all the way, but you can take it all the way as you need, if you would like it that way. I'm trying to think of just some other ingredients that you can do for stuffed peppers. You don't have to do rice. If you are, watching your carbs and you want to do low carb, you can do all meat and veggies inside of the stuffed pepper. You can do seafood as well. So those are just some different options, but I'm just really excited to show you all a way to use up some of the ingredients that you already have at home, something that's quick, easy, and cost effective, and really is a quick one dish meal. So what I'm going to do is pan the camera down so you can see what I'm doing, and we're going to go ahead and get our stuffed pepper mixed. Okay, so we're going to get started with our pepper, and I just have a yellow bell pepper. You can use green bell pepper, red bell pepper, orange bell pepper if you like. Sometimes even if you have the smaller sweet bell peppers or the sweet peppers, you can use those also. But this is something that I already had, so I'm going to use this. I've already washed it, and I'm just going to take the top off of it. Well, you know what? First, before I take the top off, I'm going to kind of trim down the bottom a little bit, so when I put the bell pepper inside of the pan to roast it in the oven, it will stand up. Sometimes they'll stand on their own. Let's see. So this is what I'm going to cook it with, and I'm just doing one pepper. So if you have more peppers, feel free, but this one is actually standing really good, so I don't have to cut the bottoms off. But what I would do if I was going to trim it down, I'll just cut one to show you, but I wouldn't make it to where I've cut all the way through. I just want to shave it a little bit, but I'll show you what I mean. So I would just take my knife and I would just kind of cut a little bit. If you all can see this one right here, I just cut a little bit of the bottom off so that it would stand if I needed to. Because sometimes with them being a little bit lumpy or not smooth, you don't get a good stand, but this one was perfect. I just want to take a little bit off just to show you. So I'm going to take the top off the pepper. So we got the top off, and then I just want to go in and take out the inside and take out the ribs, if you know, and then you can save this top to use for something else to add to another dish. So when you cut the top off, don't get rid of it. Definitely save it for another dish. And with this, you can, run your fingers through and take the inside out. And I'm going to start a little bit with my knife. You can use your knife as well, but I'm just going to kind of cut around it a little bit just to get most of it loose. So I've gotten that out, and the inside here is the ribs of the bell peppers, and I like to take those out as well because they are not as sweet as the outside would. They can be a little bit bitter, so I like to make sure I take those out. And looks like this one didn't have a lot of seeds, which is good as well, because normally when you cut into it, there's so many seeds down at the bottom, but that was good. So I'm going to take the knife and just try to loosen up some of the rib part, and then I'll go in with my hands to get the rest of it out. So I've loosened it up, so I'm just going to go in with my hands and make sure that and if you all can see, I went in with my hands and just made sure I got most of the rib from the inside out. I'm just going through. And this is the time where you also want to double check for seeds. You want to make sure that you don't have any seeds, because they won't get soft, the seeds, and you don't want to crush down on a seed. Not good. So perfect. We have our bell pepper. We took the top off. We've got rid of the ribs and the seed and the stem. We're going to save this for later because we'll use it in something else. We don't want to get rid of that. It's standing nicely, so when it gets ready to go in the oven, it should cook perfect. So this was a good bell pepper. I'm excited about it. And we'll set that to the side. We'll set that to the side. Got one more little piece I want to take out. So I got that. And we will take our bowl and we're going to add our rice to the bowl, and then we'll add our ground beef. You don't want to add your tomatoes or anything with liquid until you add your drier ingredients, because you don't want your filling too wet. And that way you can always add to, but you can't take away. So I like to slowly add the liquid ingredients to it to make sure that everything goes well. Okay, so we have our bowl and we're going to start mixing our ingredients. And as I mentioned, you want to mix your dry ingredients, so your rice and your meat, and then you want to add your tomatoes or liquid once you have the dry ingredients in, because you can always add to, but you can't take away. So you want to make sure that you have that in, and then slowly add your liquid to the consistency that you want. So I'm going to add my rice to the bowl, and I'm going to add my ground beef, and I'm just going to stir that in. And if you want to get in with your hands, you definitely can do that as well. I'm not going to add a lot of seasoning to this because I've already seasoned my meat and my rice when I cooked it. And then I'm going to slowly add about, so this is a 14.5-ounce can. I'm going to add about half of this with the liquid and all to it. So that was a little bit more than half. And I'm going to stir that in. And I'll probably get in here with my hands just to make sure that everything is nice and mixed. So let's see. So I'm going to mix it in. And it smells good. You can add more rice or less rice if you would like. And you can add additional seasoning also to this dish if you like. So, going to change out my gloves. And if you see, we have our mixture, our rice and our tomatoes and our ground beef. And I'm just going to change out my gloves. I'm going to also move this bowl to the side because I'm going to start to grate the cheese. Now, I personally love cheese, but I'm not going to add a lot of cheese to this dish. And your filling is going to be a lot depending on how much leftovers you have or what you want to use. This is something where you can mix the filling up together, and then once you mix it, you can put it in the freezer also. So I have my cheese, and I had this cheese left over from a charcuterie board that I made, and so I'm just going to use this cheese here once I get it open. Let's see. And this is a garlic herb Monterey Jack cheese. So I think it will be really good inside of this. I'm going to try to hold it up close. If I can get it open, it's giving me a run for my money. There we go. So, and I'm just using the little bowl that I had with the stuff in it to make my little trash bowl. But if you can see the cheese up close, it has fresh garlic and herbs in it already. So that's going to have flavor also. And I am just going to grate. And I won't use all of this cheese, so I will wrap it and put it away. And maybe I'll add it to some grits or some macaroni and cheese, or another dish that I may make that requires cheese, just to mix it up some. So I've used about maybe half of it. Get a little bit more. And I'm just doing a little extra because I wanted to try to even it off some. So there's our cheese, nice and grated. And you know, there is something to be said about grating your own cheese. I mean, you definitely don't have to, and I use packaged cheese a lot of times myself, but the more and more I, you know, cook or get older, I love to grate my own cheese. So I'm going to start adding my cheese to this, and I'm going to put all of this cheese in there. I like cheese. And you can save some of it to put on the top, but I like to mix it in. So I'm trying to get as much as I can off of the cutting board. And I'm going to mix this around. And it smells so good with that cheese and the tomatoes. And I want to add, I didn't have this on my plan to add, but I'm going to add a little bit of parsley for color as well. So I'm going to grab my parsley. So I have just some parsley flakes that I'm going to add, and I think that gives it a nice color. Oh yeah, that looks really good. I think the yellow and the meat and the parsley will be great. So now we have our mixture. We have our rice, our ground beef, our tomatoes, our cheese that has garlic and herbs in it, and then some parsley. And all of this stuff I already had on hand. We're going to add it to our pepper. So I'm going to move that so I can sit the pepper back here. And then we're just going to take our spoon and we're just going to stuff our pepper. And stuffed peppers are something that people used to make a long time ago and kind of got out of it, but they are making a comeback. So, and then I like to pack it all in so that it is really stuffed. And then once I get it packed in, I like to overflow it because I just think it looks nice. So let me. I want to put my hand too much in front of the camera, but we just want to add more. And I think a nice little overflow makes it really, really nice. So we have our stuffed pepper, and I'm going to just kind of move all of this to the side on our cutting board, so that we can put our dish down to put our pepper in. So we have our stuffed pepper, we have our dish. We're just gonna sit it here, no liquid or anything at the bottom, just a light spray of the dish. And then let's move that to the side. We'll put it in the oven for 30 to 35 minutes, maybe 40 minutes at the most, just so that the filling can get hot, the pepper can cook down some, and then we'll take it out. If you want to, another thing I didn't think of to mention or do, and I probably won't do it for this one, but if you want to oil your pepper a little bit of olive oil, a little bit of salt and pepper on the outside of your pepper, that will add more flavor to it as well. And if you can see, we still have a good bit of mix here. So we can really make maybe 2 or 3 more stuffed peppers with this one amount of ingredients that we're using left over. So make sure, get this in the oven, put all your trash away, save the top for later. And once our pepper is done, we'll come back and take a look at the finished product. So we have our finished stuffed bell pepper, and it turned out really, really well. Just got out the oven, nice juice from the bell pepper. All of our ingredients got nice and hot and melted. You can see the cheese, the rice, the beef. And this was all made with ingredients that you may already have in your refrigerator. So a ground beef, rice, fire roasted tomatoes, garlic and herb, cheese, stuffed bell pepper with a little bit of parsley.